I can't tell you that real estate interests are freaked by this. One of the things that really freaks them, and they should be freaked by this, is that this guy is actually close to Andrew Cuomo in the sense that, he's not getting trounced. Like someone this out there. And by the way, a guy with no experience, a guy that's been, he lives in subsidized housing. He's a lucky sperm kid, I guess is the best way to put it. He's never really held a job. And he's got these bizarre ideas about global politics and running the city, that this guy could come that close. And I will say this about people that own businesses in the city. He is the canary in the coal. And that's you. Okay. But I will say this to you, Bob. He is the canary in the coal mine. This state, New York State, is run by some wacky people. But, in many ways, the mayor isn't as powerful as what goes on in Albany, because they set the agenda. I mean, like Andrew Cuomo couldn't cut taxes or raise taxes unless he had Albany buy-in. And, the people who run the Democratic Party, which controls the state, are very far left. They're like him, or maybe a little less left than him, but not much. And, Kathy Hochul, who's the governor and a disaster as governor, I would say, I don't think I'm being too harsh when I say this, just she hasn't been a very strong leader. She's moderate and she's far and she's pretty, and she gives in to them all the time. It does point to a sort of broad existential sort of conundrum for people like Bob Sloan and others and all our friends.
That's why I mentioned it, because, hey, we employ a lot of folks, and we pay our taxes, we do our things. It's just got to the point where someone has to ask him that question.
Well, let me ask you this, Bob. Could you pay your folks from Connecticut or Florida?
Sure. You could go anywhere. But,
that's what makes these people that's what gets you so enraged by them. They don't understand that if you're in the information economy, which we are, I can do this from South Carolina.
By the way,
my phone.
Our head of research is in Tennessee. We have people in Boston. We have people in Seattle. Yeah. We have people in Florida. We could move this company to Florida, no problem.
Yeah, why can't Jamie Dimon move half his people to Texas and Florida?
He could.
He could. I mean, he doesn't want to. It would take something. It wouldn't be a.
Look, I mean, they have an amazing real estate presence here in New York City. They just built this magnificent building on Park Avenue. I mean, there's a lot of things keeping him here amongst just the physical assets. Forget.
Yeah. But you don't need
schooling and everything else. So,
but listen, the schools are not as good anymore. I mean, we saw what happened with Columbia. By the way, all the Ivy League schools and all the elite colleges, I can just tell you, I talk to employers and your employers, and you're an employer. All their reps have gone down. People are saying, if I get a really smart kid who works hard, working class kid out of Rutgers, you gotta like that guy. I bet you that guy would be a good worker. And that's what's going on right now. So or University of Florida, which is actually a good school, by the way.
A great school.
Or University of Alabama or University of Georgia. You could go down the line.
I can tell you one thing that's very interesting, right? GPAs from certain, let's call them blue-blooded, gold-plated schools are inflated.
Yeah, that's true.
But state school grading curve is not.
Hey, University of Missouri.
And they're not. and people pick up on that a high GPA from a state school, they're not giving it away. Whereas, a lot of the higher end, better, I would say,
right. Particularly a good state, particularly a good state school that does, we're talking about good, the sort of some of the flagship state schools are just as good right now. And I think, but my bigger point is, so you don't need to be in New York. You don't need to be in Boston. You don't need to be in Silicon Valley. You don't need to be in LA.
Nope.
You can be in Texas. You can be in Florida.